Okay, let's unpack this. You sent over a really fascinating collection of material, all centered around travel and life in the Northwest Territories of Canada.
Yeah, it's quite the mix, isn't it?
It really is a deep dive, hitting everything from, how to prepare for truly extreme cold and the surprisingly intricate world of northern food prices
Hmm.
to compelling historical events like the saga of the Mad Trapper and the huge undertaking of the distant early warning line.
Right, the Do Deal line.
Oh,
And the Northern Lights, too, science and folklore.
exactly. We even have some historical maps charting the Arctic and explorations into both the science and the captivating folklore of the Northern Lights. This is shaping up to be quite the paper adventure already for you.
It certainly is a remarkable range of topics. It speaks volumes about your desire to really understand this unique part of the world, from the practicalities of day-to-day life to the larger historical and even celestial forces at play.
Your mission, then, as the learner, is to quickly but thoroughly get a handle on the essential aspects of traveling and living in this extraordinary region. Uh-huh.
We want to understand not just the what of it all, the practical stuff, but also the why behind some of the history and even the bit of magic surrounding it.
Yeah, finding the most interesting nuggets.
We're aiming to pull out the most interesting and insightful pieces so you come away feeling genuinely well-informed and hopefully inspired without feeling like you've just read a textbook.
Exactly. Think of this as distilling all that rich information into a concentrated form designed to give you a solid understanding of the Northwest Territories through, a variety of lenses.
Preparing for the North.
Mhm.
Okay, let's dive straight into the sharp end, the practicalities of venturing into that incredible climate.
Good place to start.
Your sources really hammer home that layering clothing is absolutely key, and it's all about function leading the way, not fashion.
Definitely. No room for vanity when it's that cold.
And it's more than just staying warm. It's about managing the humidity your body produces, which can actually make even great insulation pretty useless if it gets trapped.
That's a crucial point. Trapped moisture is bad news. And wind, wow, wind is a massive factor, with wind chill making the temperature drop feel way more significant than the thermometer might suggest.
Oh, absolutely. The wind is often the real enemy.
You even shared some really useful tips, like making sure you've tested your gear beforehand and understanding exactly what kinds of risks you're trying to protect yourself from.
Mm-hmm. Knowing the specific dangers.
Even pointing out that frostbite can be a danger for both those new to the north and seasoned travelers.
Yeah, what's crucial to grasp here is that the Arctic environment isn't a static, uniformly cold place. As your sources clearly indicate, the interplay between wind and humidity creates a really dynamic and potentially hazardous situation.
Right.
Your body naturally emits moisture, and if that moisture can't escape and gets trapped within your layers, it significantly reduces the insulating properties of your clothing.
Makes sense.
And the impact of wind, even at what might seem like moderately cold temperatures, can accelerate heat loss from your body dramatically.
Right. So it sounds like choosing the right materials is fundamental, especially those that can wick away moisture from your skin, like polypropylene base layers.
Exactly. Wicking is key for that base layer.
And having that outer shell that's truly wind resistant seems like it's absolutely non-negotiable.
Totally. A good wind shell is vital.
It's almost a bit counterintuitive. You can always put on more layers if you're cold, but dealing with moisture trapped inside and that biting wind requires specific technical gear.
Precisely. And the point your source makes about frostbite not being solely a risk for novices is really important.
Yeah, I found that interesting.
Even individuals with extensive outdoor experience can be susceptible if they aren't constantly mindful of their clothing system in the prevailing conditions. It really underscores the unforgiving nature of that environment. It demands respect and constant vigilance.
Packing smart and food. Okay, so moving on to packing lists. Yours, broken down by temperature, ranges from negative 20 degrees C right down to a bone-chilling negative 60 degrees C, really illustrate that layering strategy in action.
Yeah, they get pretty detailed.
With specific recommendations like double toques, multiple layers of polypropylene, fleece mid-layers, and those crucial wind-resistant outer garments.
It's fascinating to see the level of detail in those recommended packing lists. It really gives you a tangible sense of how you need to progressively build those insulating layers as the temperature drops. Double toques wearing one over the other and multiple base layers are all about creating those crucial air pockets that trap your body heat.
Right, trapping that air.
And the emphasis on dry, shelf-stable food is entirely logical when you consider the unpredictable nature of travel and the types of accommodations you might encounter in more remote areas.
You also included some sample meal plans that focus on dry, non-perishable, and easily prepared foods like oatmeal and nut mixes.
Yeah, stuff you can make with just hot water, basically.
Which makes perfect sense given that you might not always have access to full kitchen facilities. This neatly brings us to the surprisingly complex topic of food costs in the North.
Ah, yes, the $10 loaf of bread stereotype.
Well, yeah. While there's a common perception of incredibly high prices, there are actually government subsidies in place for certain essential products that are shipped to northern retailers.
Right, Nutrition North Canada and programs like that. They aim to help.
However, as we see, the final price tag can be influenced by a whole range of factors, including the charges levied by air carriers.
The transport costs are the big driver.
Sometimes leading to those head-scratching situations, like chocolate milk being cheaper in Tuktoyaktuk, right on the Arctic coast, than in Norman Wells further south.
Wow, really? That is weird. It's fascinating, isn't it? The whole food price situation is clearly not as simple as just saying everything is expensive.
No, not at all.
The existence of those government subsidies suggests a real effort to make sure essential goods are more accessible for people living in these isolated communities.
Sure, they try to offset the costs.
Yes, those subsidies are specifically designed to offset the significantly higher transportation costs associated with getting goods to such remote locations. However, as your sources clearly show, the final price that consumers pay at the till can be affected by a whole host of additional factors.
Right.
And the fees charged by different air carriers are a significant one. This can indeed lead to those seemingly illogical price discrepancies between different communities. It really highlights the intricate logistical challenges of supplying goods across such a vast and sparsely populated territory.
Research and early travels.
Here we go.
Okay, so planning a trip. Your sources really underscore how important it is to do your homework when you're planning to travel to some of the smaller communities.
Definitely. Don't just show up.
Even suggesting that local hamlet and band offices can be incredibly valuable resources for information.
This really points to a critical aspect of traveling in the North that might be less obvious to those used to more conventional travel. The absolute necessity of tapping into local knowledge. Unlike typical tourist destinations, many of the smaller, more remote communities have unique protocols, important local information, and insights that you can really only get directly from the people who live there. The hamlet and band offices are indeed key points of contact for visitors.
That makes sense. So your first trip took you to Inuvik, a fascinating planned community that was actually established because of flooding issues in Aklavik.
Right, Aklavik was the original hub.
Which was the original regional administrative center. Inuvik is well known for its above-ground utilidors, those insulated conduits that carry essential services like water and sewage.
Yeah, those big metal boxes on stilts.
And those are a direct result of the challenges posed by the permafrost.
Absolutely. And the story of Inuvik and Aklavik is quite revealing about the very real challenges of the northern environment. The fact that an entire regional administrative center had to be relocated due to the impact of flooding and erosion really speaks volumes about the power of nature in this part of the world.
It really does.
And those utilidors in Inuvik are a truly remarkable feat of engineering, a direct and ingenious response to the very real problems that permafrost poses to infrastructure.
Keeps the pipes from freezing and the ground from melting.
Exactly. By keeping essential services above ground in those insulated structures, they prevent the ground from thawing and causing potentially catastrophic damage to pipes and other systems. It's a very visible and clever adaptation to a unique geological reality.
From there, you then traveled on the ice road to Aklavik, a town with a very rich history, including its connection to the famous Mad Trapper saga.
Ah, the ice road experience. And then the experience of traveling by ice road to reach Aklavik, that's an adventure in itself, a temporary but vital piece of infrastructure that's entirely dictated by the seasonal freezing of the waterways.
The Mad Trapper and the Lost Patrol. Okay, this section delves into two incredibly compelling historical narratives. The story of the Mad Trapper.
Albert Johnson, maybe?
Right, maybe. It's presented with a really interesting nuance, showing multiple perspectives. Some saw him as defiant against the crown, others fighting for independence, and still others as a remarkable tale of survival and ingenuity against a determined pursuit.
These two stories have really become iconic within the history of the North, and for good reason. They both capture the spirit of the time and the very real dangers people faced.
Definitely.
The Mad Trapper narrative is particularly intriguing because of the enduring ambiguity surrounding his motivations and even his true identity. Was he primarily a criminal evading justice? Was he a solitary individual who simply wanted to be left alone?
Or something else entirely.
Or did he represent a form of resistance against encroaching authority? The fact that your sources present these different interpretations is really valuable. It avoids a simplistic, one-dimensional portrayal.
It really does steer clear of painting a simple picture of right and wrong, doesn't it? It encourages you to think about the situation from multiple angles.
Exactly. And the story of the Lost Patrol serves as a stark and tragic reminder of the potentially fatal consequences of underestimating the northern environment
Oh, and it's heartbreaking.
and setting out without adequate preparation. The ambition to break a speed record, coupled with insufficient supplies and likely a lack of understanding of the conditions they would face, ultimately led to a devastating outcome.
Trying to get mail delivered faster?
Yeah, between Dawson City and Fort McPherson. It really underscores the profound respect that the northern wilderness commands.
And it's a poignant detail that the Dempster Highway, which was built much later, is actually named after the constable who ultimately found the Lost Patrol.
Yes, Constable Dempster. And as you mentioned, the fact that the Dempster Highway, a modern transportation artery, is named in honor of the constable who found their remains creates a powerful and lasting connection to that historical tragedy.
Continuing south, Trip 1. So your first documented trip continued through a number of fascinating communities, including Sigetchik, which was formerly known as Arctic Red River.
Right, another name change, reflecting local identity.
Then on to Fort McPherson, another location deeply connected to both the Mad Trapper and Lost Patrol stories, and interestingly, a place that apparently has 2 grocery vendors.
This leg of your journey really illustrates the interconnectedness of these northern communities, many of which rely on those seasonal ice roads as vital transportation links during the winter months. The fact that Sigetchik underwent a name change, reportedly due to the local community feeling that the previous name had problematic colonial associations, raises an important point about cultural identity and how it's represented geographically.
Good point.
And as we've discussed, Fort McPherson's central role in both the Mad Trapper and Lost Patrol sagas firmly establishes its significance in the history of the Northwest Territories.
And you're right, the fact that a relatively small community like Fort McPherson supports 2 grocery vendors is actually quite remarkable when you consider the significant logistical challenges we talked about earlier.
It really does suggest a certain level of established population and economic activity within the community to sustain that.
From there, you headed back to Innervik before embarking on another ice road journey, this time to Tuktoyaktuk, right on the Arctic coast.
Tuk, famous name.
Tuktoyaktuk, with its Inuvialuit name, meaning it looks like a caribou, is particularly notable for being the site of a distant early warning line radar station.
Ah, the DW line connection again.
And for the presence of numerous pingos, those unique ice-cored hills. It's also the northern terminus of the massive Trans-Canada Trail.
And then reaching Tuktoyaktuk, situated right on the edge of the Arctic Ocean with its distinctive landscape dotted with pingos, those fascinating geological formations where a core of ice pushes up the overlying sediment.
Right, those weird hills.
And its status as the northern end of the Trans-Canada Trail truly emphasizes the vastness and geographical diversity of the Northwest Territories.
Electronics defense. Now, this next part of your material takes a really interesting shift, focusing on the captivating history of radar development.
Yeah, moving into Cold War strategy.
It starts with the early conceptual ideas and then traces the advancements through German innovations during World War II.
They were quite advanced early on.
And the subsequent massive efforts by the United States to build a comprehensive defense system against potential Soviet attacks coming over the North Pole.
This is a significant and fascinating pivot in the narrative, highlighting the immense strategic importance of the Arctic region during the Cold War. The early groundwork for radar technology, even in the years leading up to World War II, was crucial in setting the stage for these sophisticated detection systems.
Right, building on earlier work.
The advancements made by Germany during the war were particularly influential in shaping the direction of radar technology.
It's quite astonishing to think about just how rapidly radar technology evolved from those initial, somewhat rudimentary experiments to the highly advanced detection systems that were being deployed across the Arctic.
Absolutely. A huge technological leap in a short time.
This push led to the establishment of the Continental Air Defense System and the construction of those iconic radar lines like the Pine Tree Line and the Distant Early Warning, or DW line.
The DDAL being the most famous, probably.
With sites even as far north as Tuktoyaktuk.
And the very real fear of a potential Soviet bomber attack coming over the North Pole served as a major driving force behind the massive undertaking of building these radar lines right across the Canadian Arctic,
Yeah, huge investment, huge effort.
including the DW line, which had a very tangible and significant presence in communities like Tuktoyaktuk.
The development of surface-to-air missiles was also a crucial component of this overall defense strategy.
Right, you need interceptors too.
Even having an impact on Canadian aviation projects like the famous AVRO Arrow.
Yes, the development of surface-to-air missiles was considered an absolutely integral part of this multi-layered defense approach. And as your source correctly points out, this strategic imperative even had significant repercussions for Canadian aviation development, most notably the cancellation of the ambitious AVRO Arrow project.
Trip 2 and Atomic Secrets. Okay, your second documented trip included visits to Norman Wells, a community whose history and development are really tied to oil extraction.
Norman Wells offers a really different lens through which to view life in the Northwest Territories, one that's heavily shaped by the presence of natural resource extraction.
Right, very industry-focused.
The contrast between its development and the more traditional ways of life in some of the other communities we've discussed is quite striking.
And then on to Deline, which in North Slavey translates beautifully to where the waters flow.
Lovely name.
You noted an interesting incident there, the impact of an ice road closure leading to a significant spike in the price of flour in Deline.
Yeah, that specific instance you noted, with the ice road closure and the dramatic increase in the price of a basic staple like flour in Deline, powerfully illustrates the inherent vulnerability of these remote communities to disruptions in their vital supply lines.
It's such a stark and immediate example of just how dependent they can be on those sometimes fragile seasonal transportation links.
Precisely. It hits home quickly when something basic skyrockets in price.
Interestingly, Deline is also the closest populated settlement to Port Radium, which was the site of Canada's very first uranium mine.
Ah, the atomic connection.
A mine that secretly supplied crucial uranium for the Allied war effort during World War II.
And the story surrounding Port Radium and its crucial, often secret connection to the Allied atomic program is a really fascinating and perhaps lesser-known chapter of Canadian history.
Definitely not something everyone knows.
The fact that Canada's first uranium mine was located in this remote area and played such a pivotal role in the war effort, often shrouded in secrecy, is quite remarkable.
Your sources also touch on the complex legacy of this mine and its lasting impact on the local Satu'din First Nations people,
That's a critical part of the story.
along with the subsequent efforts towards environmental cleanup.
Yes, it's equally important to acknowledge the long-term legacy of this mining activity and its significant impact on the local Indigenous populations, as well as the ongoing and necessary efforts towards environmental remediation. It's a complex history.
Further travels, Trip 2. Your second trip continued to Toledo, which was formerly known as Fort Norman, and whose name means where the rivers meet.
The fact that Toledo has reverted to its Indigenous name, reflecting its rich cultural heritage, again underscores the ongoing and important cultural shifts within the Northwest Territories.
Yeah, another example. Then on to Yellowknife, which is now the capital of the Northwest Territories, and has a rich history tied to gold mining.
Yellowknife's history as a thriving gold mining center and its current status as the territorial capital solidify its position as a significant hub in the region.
It's the main city, really.
Pretty much.
You also visited Fort Good Hope, a community particularly known for its historic Roman Catholic Church, which features some truly unique interior designs.
And the historic Roman Catholic Church in Fort Good Hope, with its distinctive architectural elements and interior designs often influenced by local materials and traditions, serves as a really tangible reminder of the cultural fusion that has occurred in these communities over time.
Interesting. The rather circuitous route you took from Fort Good Hope back to Edmonton really highlights the often complex transportation realities of navigating this vast territory.
Yeah, as you noted, the indirect route back to Edmonton really emphasizes that in such a geographically expansive and sometimes road-limited region, direct travel isn't always an option, and journeys often involve multiple connections and varying modes of transportation. You fly where you need to fly.
Trip 3 in Fort Simpson. Your final documented trip in this collection took you to Fort Simpson, a location of significant historical importance.
Big fur trade history there.
As it was a major fur trading post situated at the strategic confluence of the mighty Mackenzie and Liard rivers.
Fort Simpson's long and rich history as a key fur trading post, strategically located at the meeting point of those two major rivers, undoubtedly makes it a historically vital location within the Northwest Territories.
You observed a strong sense of community pride amongst the residents of Fort Simpson, which is always wonderful to hear.
Your observation about the strong sense of community pride is really insightful and suggests a deep-rooted resilience and a strong local identity.
The town's layout, which has expanded beyond the original island over time, and the very local tradition of placing bets on exactly when the ice on the Mackenzie River will break up in the spring, were particularly interesting details.
Yeah, the ice breakup pool is a fascinating example of how life in the North is so intrinsically linked to the natural cycles and the dramatic changes in the seasons.
It really is. Fort Simpson also holds a unique place in history, as it was a community visited by Pope John Paul II.
That's right. And the fact that Pope John Paul II visited Fort Simpson adds another layer of significance to its history and its place within the broader cultural landscape.
Fort Liard and a guardian angel. Traveling from Fort Simpson down to Fort Liard, you experience the noticeably warmer climate that has earned Fort Liard the rather charming nickname of the Tropics of the North.
Hey, yeah, relatively speaking, I guess.
Which is quite a contrast to some of the other places we've been discussing.
The marked difference in climate between Fort Simpson and Fort Liard, which gives the latter its Tropics of the North moniker, really highlights the significant regional variations that exist within the vastness of the Northwest Territories.
You also encountered Nahanni wood bison roaming quite freely within the town itself.
The presence of the reintroduced Nahanni wood bison freely moving around the town is also quite notable and speaks to ongoing conservation efforts.
Pretty cool to see.
Although, as with any human-wildlife interaction, it also raises important considerations.
True. And then, on your return journey back to Fort Simpson, a truly remarkable story unfolded involving a flat tire.
Oh yeah, the guardian angel story.
And completely unexpected help from a former classmate and some local hunters. A real guardian angel moment, as you described it.
And that story you recounted about the flat tire and the incredibly fortunate and timely assistance you received from your former classmate and the hunters, it really speaks to the close-knit nature of many of these communities.
Definitely.
And the genuine willingness of people to help each other out, especially in situations where you might be quite isolated.
It really does sound like those unexpected connections and those acts of kindness can be absolutely crucial when you're in such a remote setting.
Absolutely. It underscores the importance of the human element and the vital role that community spirit plays in the face of geographical isolation and the potential challenges that can arise.
Arctic tidbits. Okay, your extensive collection concludes with a really diverse array of fascinating tidbits.
Yeah, a real grab bag at the end.
Ranging from a humorous anecdote about the logistics of beer on a flight heading into Inuvik.
Yeah, always important logistics.
And the clever adaptation of Peltier thermoelectric modules for use in wood stoves.
That's clever. Using waste heat.
To important discussions about polar bears in the context of climate change.
Yeah, a huge issue up there.
And the rather surprising story of the Northwest Territories government actually running a fur buying program.
This final section really does tie together a wonderfully eclectic mix of interesting facets of the Northwest Territories. That anecdote about the beer on the flight adds a touch of human and logistical reality to travel in the region.
Right.
The innovative use of Peltier modules in wood stoves is a great example of how technology can be adapted to meet the specific needs of the northern environment. And the inclusion of the discussion around polar bears and climate change rightly highlights a very significant contemporary environmental issue for the Arctic.
And that government fur buying program is quite unexpected, isn't it? Essentially purchasing pelts at a loss, seemingly as a way to support local cultural traditions and potentially the traditional economy.
Yes, it certainly suggests a commitment to preserving those cultural practices and providing a form of economic support for those involved in traditional harvesting activities. It's an interesting approach.
You even touched on social issues as reflected in school posters, the tragic historical account of the massacre at Bloody Falls.
The inclusion of social issues reflected in school posters serves as an important reminder that these communities, like any other, face their own set of unique challenges. And the historical account of the massacre at Bloody Falls is a sobering reminder of the complex and sometimes tragic history of the region.
And a wonderful collection of historical maps depicting the North Pole, including some truly imaginative early renderings and even a flat Earth map.
Then we have this incredible visual journey through the history of cartography of the North Pole, showing just how much our understanding of the Arctic has evolved over the centuries.
From wild guesses to satellites.
From those early speculative landmasses and mythical geographies to the much more accurate depictions we have today, and even the fascinating persistence of flat Earth theories in some eras. It really is a captivating visual history of exploration, discovery, and our ever-changing understanding of the world.
Finally, you delved into the captivating world of the Northern Lights, exploring both the ancient folklore that attributed them to spirits and omens,
Yeah, the aurora. Always amazing.
and the modern scientific explanations involving solar wind and the Earth's magnetosphere.
And finally, the exploration of the Northern Lights, moving from ancient folklore that imbued them with spiritual meaning to the modern scientific understanding involving the interaction of charged particles from the solar wind with the Earth's magnetic field and upper atmosphere.
Right, the science behind the magic.
It beautifully encapsulates the way in which the North often blends elements of mystery and wonder with rigorous scientific inquiry.
You also helpfully included a concise list of key Northwest Territories facts, highlighting its immense size, relatively small population, its numerous official languages, and its unique symbols.
Just some quick reference points there.
So, what does all of this mean for you, the learner? You've now taken a really rapid yet quite thorough deep dive into the Northwest Territories,
Covered a lot.
gaining some valuable insights into the practicalities of traveling in an Arctic environment, the rich historical tapestry woven from exploration and significant events, the unique challenges and remarkable adaptations of life in the North, and even some of its enduring mysteries and breathtaking natural wonders.
Indeed. You've really gained a multifaceted understanding, touching on the diverse environment, the resilient people, the layered history, and even the scientific and cultural significance of this truly remarkable and often misunderstood region of Canada.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Considering the sheer vastness and incredible diversity you've explored in these sources, what single aspect of the Northwest Territories, be it the remarkable resilience of its people in the face of a challenging environment, the stark and often breathtaking beauty of its landscapes, the profound weight of its history, or the ethereal and captivating dance of the Northern Lights, what resonates most deeply with you and sparks a genuine desire for further exploration or learning?
That's the question, isn't it?
That, I think, is your next adventure waiting to unfold.
This raises a really important point for you to consider. From this incredibly rich collection of information, what is the one thread that you'll want to follow further to deepen your understanding of this fascinating part of the world?